Hello, my name is Melissa Daniels and I have strabismus. Strabismus is when your eyes are not pointing in the same direction, and many people use surgery to fix this. And this video is going to be all about why the results from strabismus surgery just don't last as long as we want them to. We are going to dive into that, but first I want to tell you about the new community that I have created called Strabismus Solutions Support Community. It's over at learn.strabismussolutions.com, and I am so excited about it. This is a community I'm creating for anyone with strabismus. We are going to be talking about surgery, vision therapy, the emotional side of having strabismus, just the fact that no one gets it. Your friends, your spouse, your kids, like people just don't understand how impactful strabismus can be on your life and how difficult it is. And so to have a group of people that just get it is so much fun. So I'm very excited about that. Make sure you go over and sign up. You can get the first 14 days for free. We're gonna start our first classes June 1st. We're gonna have a pre-class on May 27th at 7 p.m. where we're gonna just kind of get to know each other. And so it's all getting started right now. So jump in from the beginning. It's gonna be a ton of fun. Okay, let's jump into why strabismus surgery doesn't always last long term. So the most important thing that we need to talk about is why strabismus occurs. One thing to think about is, why do some people, 96% of the population, just doesn't have to deal with strabismus, right? What happens is when they're like a little tiny infant, their eyes are actually kind of fluid, and the brain starts figuring out like, hey, if I take what I see from this eye and I take what I see from this eye and I do a little math, I can tell how far away things are, right? As babies are putting things in their mouth. And so the eyes are learning to do this beautiful fluid movement. As they look near, they converge, and then they look far and they diverge, and they just start realizing like, hey, if we coordinate in this way and do the math, we can tell how far away things are. This is super efficient. This is amazing. This is great. And so that's what 96% of the population, that's what happens in the first 2 years of life as those eyes are developing. And that is what holds the eyes straight. The eyes are not always just glued like this, right? When you're looking near, far, your eye, like the distance between your eyes changes. It's not just like this perfectly straight thing all the time for like a normal visioned person, right? So it's just the brain has figured out how to just this beautiful dance between the eyes. And that is the glue. It's called binocular vision. You're using both eyes together. That's what holds those eyes together, is that the brain is doing all the math, right? It's happening back here. So if that's how normal people see, what happens with strabismus? Why do we get strabismus? I'm going to talk about a few different reasons that some people have strabismus. It's a very large umbrella covering a lot of different issues, but here are kind of like some of the basics. So one is if the eyes are not seeing equally. So this could happen because of amblyopia, which is just like a bad neurological connection between the brain and the eye, where one eye is like, even with glasses, even with any help, it just is still blurry. That one eye just is kind of like, no, I'm not working. And that can happen from birth. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of, like, did the chicken or the egg come first? I don't know. Okay, but amblyopia, definitely if it's a really weak eye, the brain's like, this is not working because this eye is just like the worst. They call it a lazy eye sometimes. And so we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist and only use one eye and redo all of our things. We're going to judge depth using only one eye, like contingency plan. That's the brain's way of getting around that. Okay. Another one is refractive error that's really, really high. Like, you got like plus 10 in one eye and then plus 1 in the other eye. And the brain's like, each eye is seen is so different. Like, we'll just shut that one off. We're just going to use only one, right? So, or if somebody has like maybe a plus in one side, minus in the other side, right? We've got just some like really tricky stuff going on where the brain's like, I can't actually combine what both eyes are seeing. It just doesn't make sense. Those images are not matching up enough for me to make sense of that. So we're just going to pick one eye, the best eye, and go with that. Okay. So that's another reason people get strabismus, and it's easier to ignore, because the eye doesn't come down here. It usually goes here or here. That makes it easier to ignore the image coming from that eye. Okay. Another one is like a decompensated phoria. And what this means is, like, you've maybe heard of Convergence Insufficiency. And this is a kid that's reading a book and the words are here, but their eyes are pointed back here. And that would be aphoria. If you look at them, their eyes are straight. They would even be considered ortho going into the eye doctor. But if they start doing cover tests and things, they might see a little flick of the eye kind of going out. And what's happening is the eyes just, they're not quite doing this correctly, right? They're like wanting to stay out here more and not as good at coming in here. And so the brain just isn't coordinating the eye movements completely like effectively. It's not very efficient. The eyes still look straight, right? But we've just got some binocular issues going on. And what happens is maybe they deal with that for 25 years and their eyes look straight, and reading is hard and they don't do well in school, or they get headaches a lot and car sick, right? And so they don't really realize it's a vision thing, but then they're 25 and they get hit in the head. And all of a sudden the eye that just was like wanting to kind of go out, but they could hold it in straight, just goes, I'm done. I don't want to deal with that anymore. And I'm just going to sit out here. Or maybe there's like an eye surgery, like a cataract surgery, or like the retina or LASIK, like different things, or like a stress, like having a baby, going through menopause, like so hormonal things, super high stress where maybe you get fired, or like there's a lot of different things that can happen. Having a job where you look at a computer all day long and you're just like stuck here and your brain just is like done. And it's like, I'm just going to sit here. I'm done. I'm done fighting this. I don't want to fight it anymore. Like my binocular vision just isn't quite working, and I don't want to try so hard. I just want to, okay. So that's another reason somebody might get a strabismus. That's maybe more later in life. There's going to be a lot of double vision usually associated with that type of strabismus. Another is like nerve palsy. So the nerves that are connecting the brain to the actual muscles of the eye can become damaged through like an accident, or sometimes it's just like a birth problem, right? Like birth defect. I hate to call it that, but like basically the nerves just didn't develop. And so certain parts of the muscles are not being told to fire. And so for these people, usually they'll have certain gazes. Maybe they're looking forward and their eyes are fine. And they look to the side and, they're forward, and then to the side, it goes like this, right? It's usually certain angles that eye turn is going to show up. And this is definitely more of a physical problem, because when they're straight, they can be binocular. Well, on some level, there's still some like limitations on. It's just like a muscle limitation though. Like those muscles just can't physically work, and so they're limited in certain angles and gazes. Okay. Another thing that I want to add is that with a lot of this, if you've had your eye turning in for the last 30 years, like there's probably going to be some muscle imbalance, or your eyes turning out, right? Like my eye turn was clear out here, and it's like, okay, these muscles are like stretched really, really quite a bit, and they're kind of loosey-goosey, and this muscle over here is like, and so we've got a muscle imbalance going on. And yes, we've got the underlying binocular problem for sure, but there's also some muscle like tightness and different things with muscles that are going on because the eye's been sitting in that position for so long. So yeah, I could cover this eye. So I'd be like this, and then I'd cover this eye and my eye would go straight, but it just like didn't want to move over here as much. Like there's just still some like muscle, like, okay. All right. So that's like the underlying problems that come with strabismus, that create strabismus. The brain is like, okay, we've got XYZ problem. All right, solution, turn. Solution, turn. Solution, turn. Right? This is what our brain is doing. Okay, so then why wouldn't surgery work for that? Are you already figuring it out? Surgery only addresses the muscles. Surgery is taking the muscles that are tight and maybe loosening them, or the muscles that are loose and tightening them. And it's like, okay, get that eye over here. And so it can help with a muscle imbalance for sure. If you've got muscles that just don't work with a nerve palsy, sometimes like using some surgery to like find a balance so that you can see single and more, like there are times when there is a physical problem that needs to be addressed. I would say almost every case of strabismus though has an underlying problem that has to do with binocular vision. That has to do with the fact that the brain just is not using those eyes together at all. And when the brain's not using it, you don't have the glue. And so you might have surgery and they might help with that muscle imbalance. And you're like, thank you so much. And then the eyes are straight and the brain's like, I don't really like that. It's harder to avoid double vision when these eyes are straight. So we're going to go this way now. It's like, you tightened these muscles. Thank you. Okay, now we'll just go over here. It's fine. Because the underlying problem was never addressed. The brain still doesn't know how to do this. You have to know how to do this for your brain to want to keep those eyes straight. The brain is going to figure out a solution. The brain is going to give you your ideal vision as far as it's concerned, right? But it doesn't know, especially if you didn't develop this earlier in life. Your brain didn't know. And so even if you force those eyes straight, it's not going to understand how to use the eyes together. And so they're not going to stay straight, right? Eventually the brain is going to be like, it's too hard to get rid of the double vision. I don't know how to combine these images together. It's easier if I have an eye turn. There are some people that will have a surgery, and it'll last for like 20 years before it starts to decompensate and the eye turn comes back. And those people are like, that's fine. I'll just have an eye surgery every 20 years. This is not a big deal. Okay, I have no problem with that. You won't get the binocular vision, but okay, like maybe you're fine with that. That's not the case for most people. 70% of people, 50 to 70% are going to have a surgery result that lasts a year. We don't really have research on like the long-term success rates, but just from like talking to people and being in the community, it seems like most people aren't going to get more than like 5 years out of a surgery on average, unless they address the underlying problem. And so that's what I want to share as well, is that, yeah, this is why the surgery results don't last. So how do you make them last? We all want a surgery result that lasts. The key is you have to address underlying issues, and that is binocular vision. Now, I will say that binocular vision is not a light switch that turns on and off. We've got a continuum. So every person, most people that are not completely blind have at least some level of binocular vision. Maybe like if we're doing a scale of 0 to 10, they're maybe at like a 1 or a 2. So peripherally, they are using both eyes. So that is binocular, right? You're using your eyes together and you're not seeing double of the whole world. It's usually, or you're not suppressing everything. There's usually some, a lot of people will say, well, no, I know both eyes are working because if I cover this eye, I can't see some things peripherally that I could see before. It's like, exactly, yes, binocularly, you are using both eyes out here. But only at like a 1 or a 2. Because as we move central, you just totally shut off one eye, okay? Or things aren't lined up because you've got an eye turn. And then you've got like some pro athlete is like maybe at a 10. And even getting to like a 5, through vision therapy and eye exercises and all of this to teach the brain to use those eyes together and improve, you're out here peripherally and you get to where you can see this with both eyes. Maybe still not the central, but you can get a lot more peripheral. That is going to give the brain more information binocularly that's going to help your brain want to keep those eyes aligned. So you don't have to get it to a 10. That's what I want to be clear about, is that you might not get to a 10, right? We've had these problems since we were born. Like this is pretty intense, and some people do get to a 10, and that's like amazing for them. So proud of them. I didn't. I feel like I'm like at like a 7. Okay. Like it's totally great for me. Like my eyes are straight. The surgery result lasted. A lot of people don't even end up needing surgery, honestly. Like it ends up being like, actually I can straighten my eyes now just fine and I don't need a surgery. It's like, sweet. But I will say that I don't have perfect vision, but because my brain is using my eyes together for more, I've like brought that in. I don't have to worry about my eye turn coming back and doing things because I know my brain wants to use my eyes together. So how do you get started on this, right? This is like, okay, you've convinced me. Surgery alone probably isn't going to fix the whole problem. It's probably going to keep coming back until I address the underlying issues. Sounds like a huge pain. It is a lot of work. I have some resources that can help you on the journey to make things a little bit quicker. So go over to learn.strabismussolutions.com. You can fill out the survey or the form, and I will send you a recommendation for vision therapy office close to you. You got to go to vision therapy if you want your eyes to do this. Okay. This is not something that is just like, I'll just, do some bicep curls with my eyes and then I'll be fine. It's a lot more complicated than that. So I'll send you a recommendation for vision therapy office. You can join our community, which is going to be so fun. And that's for anyone. It's not like, this is only for people in vision therapy or only for people doing surgery. Like I I do not believe in that. I believe in people are going to choose what works for them, and I support that totally. Okay. So we're going to talk about those things there. Also the emotional support, that is a huge part of strabismus. Okay. You can also take my Mastering Peripheral course. We're talking about peripheral, right? Peripheral is the key for fixing strabismus. You have to start peripherally, and you have to have epic peripheral vision and using both eyes peripherally. So that can be improved. Take my Mastering Peripheral course. It'll make a difference. And then you can also just book a Zoom call with me. A one-on-one where we get to talk face-to-face and, well, over the computer. And I will basically help go through exactly where you're at right now, what you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and help you make a plan for moving forward, whether it's surgery or vision therapy or some sort of combination. Love helping people in that way. So there are lots of resources. The good news is that there is so much information out there, right? We don't have to just be like, I sure hope it works. Like, cross your fingers. Like, no, we know what we can do to make the surgery results even better. That's what my surgeon told me. He said, if you do the vision therapy and that takes us from a 70% success rate to an 85% success rate, I'm all in, because I can only guarantee 70% success rate. And you have to do, like, you can do the other work to help the underlying problems to get us to a higher success rate. Love that opinion from him. So anyways, have a fabulous day. Don't despair. There are always solutions to our vision problems, but they are going to take work and some effort. So are you willing to put it in? I don't know. Put in the comments below how long your longest surgery lasted, the result. How long did your surgery results last? I want to know. My best one was about, I would say like 10 to 15 years before it really started decompensating. So that was pretty good. Luckily it was through my school year, so that helped a lot. Okay, we'll see you in the next video.